Good morning, folks. This is Miles Earhart here with Art Jetter and Company. Really glad to have you joining us today for this webinar with Travis Bryan from Assurity, as we will be discussing accident-only disability and a critical illness policy, pairing the two. We are going to sit tight for just a few moments as the other agents roll into this meeting, but we will get going in just a few moments. Thank you. Fantastic. All right. Good morning, folks. Once again, Miles here with Art Jetter, Travis Bryan from Assurity as well. As you have questions, please type them in the question box on your control panel at the bottom of the right side of your screen. We'll answer them at the end of the presentation or as things come up organically. There are also a few handouts that got added into this GoToWebinar page that have a few different sales ideas as well as the income protection consumer brochure. So. And then after the webinar, please feel free to give me a call to receive a copy of today's webinar and answer any additional questions that you may have. Thanks again for joining us. Travis, take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Miles. We appreciate the opportunity to partner with you today and appreciate you guys joining us and taking time out of your day to learn about a great new concept that Miles brought to us just a couple weeks ago. We really love working with Art Jetter and Company because they really like to think outside the box and provide you as agents with more opportunities to get more business in the door. And we really feel this concept could be a different angle that some people may not have thought of that might give you an opportunity to get in front of some different clients and again, help push for some extra business through the door and get you to reach those goal numbers that you have set for the year. So as Miles mentioned, my name's Travis. I'm a regional wholesaler here. I do have a business partner, Jeff McClendon. We are your support team here at Assurity, and we cover all of those individual products that are listed right there on the screen. So if you do have questions, feel free to reach out to Miles. If you're not able to get a hold of him, we can be a secondary outlet for you guys as well. So feel free to reach out to us with any questions over those products. But today we will focus a little bit more on the disability and critical illness market. Before we get into the product, I do always like to talk a little bit about who we are, just in case you're not familiar with Assurity. We are a mutual organization. We feel that is important because we run for the benefit of our policyholders. And honestly, that means that our customers come first by design. Our company cannot be bought or sold, only merged with other companies. And in fact, our company is a merger of 3 companies there in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's Woodman Accident and Life, Security Financial Life, and Lincoln Direct Life, all formed to create the company Assurity. I've been in the business 132 years. First policy we ever wrote was a disability policy. So we like to talk about knowing that space really well and DI being a part of our DNA. We are an A- rated company. And then the last piece I will talk about is that certified B Corporation insignia right there that you see. If you're not familiar with what that is, just kind of in short, what we're trying to do as a certified B Corporation is put people and planet at the same level as profit. So we're doing everything we can outside of the company to make sure that the future generations can enjoy the community and the planet just like we are right now. If you want more questions, or if you have more questions or want to see what's involved with becoming a certified B Corporation, feel free to go out to certifiedbcorporation.net and you can see some of the other carriers and companies that are out there that have this designation and what it takes to become one. Very proud to have that designation, and if anybody would like to talk more about it, I'm available at any time. Feel free to reach out to me. As I mentioned, we do cover quite a few products. We have a broad portfolio really designed to protect against life's 3 risks. We identify those as death, disability, and illness. We have some great underwriting options. We have our instant decision capability and accelerated underwriting that can provide your client an instant decision right then and there when submitting an electronic application. And we also have our fully underwritten options as well. And then the last piece we always like to talk about is support before and after the sale. We know how important it is to get that support before the sale, but we also know how important it is to get that support after the sale. And we have some great underwriters, claims staff, as well as client service people that have been in the position a very long time, that are here to help you as well as your clients answer any questions about the product that you may have sold to them, or any questions about the company. We're always here to help. So please let us know what we can do to make doing business with us as easy as possible. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into today's presentation. Today we're going to talk about income protection, pairing it with a critical illness policy, and having a no elimination period. 1 out of 20 of us on the call today will most likely experience a short-term disability this year. And then it'll happen again next year and on and on. So let's let that sink in for a minute. You know, personally, I've had a hard enough time planning on taking a week's vacation with all the work going on with planning ahead of time. Just imagine if you were to be thrust into a situation where you couldn't plan ahead. You know, logistically, it could become a nightmare, and it could become a big financial problem along with that. So we're going to talk about a couple of products here that will give the options for those clients to have peace of mind should something happen to them unexpectedly. So before we get into the concept, I do want to talk a little bit about the two products and give you some quick highlights of those products and why we have them available for you. With income protection, you know, most of you have probably seen the stats out there, but you know, 7 in 10 working Americans would honestly feel a financial pinch in a month or less without their paycheck. 65% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, so a short-term disability could have a huge impact on the way that they're able to continue their life if something were to happen to them and they weren't able to work. So let's talk about what income protection is. Let's talk about who the target market is. And then later on, I'll show you where you can quote and apply for it, and get that quote and application done in literally around about 10 to 15 minutes and get an instant decision back for your clients. So the first product we call income protection is our short-term disability product. We do have it available for accident and sickness and accident only. Today, we're going to focus more on the accident only portion. But this product does allow for considerations of more than one occupation. So we're allowing clients to be able to have multiple occupations to get them to the largest amount of benefit that we can offer based on those occupations. We have the own occupation definition built in, which simply states that if you can't work the job you were hired to do, even if you can work another job, whether it's within that company or outside the company, we would still consider you disabled because you're not working the job you were hired to do. So you would still get paid. It is a weekly benefit, so we're creating an opportunity to get the money into your client's hands faster. There's no income verification and no medical exams. We do have some great riders available. These two right here, family care and the stay-at-home spouse rider. I'll go over those here in a couple slides, talk about what's involved with that and why they're important. Issue ages, we can go from 18 to 60. Occupation classes, we go from 4A down to 1A. 4A is going to be our top occupation class, the least amount of manual labor, and then down to 1A, which is our most manual labor job occupation class. Weekly benefits, we can go up to $600 a week for those self-employed or 1099 clients. So if you add that up, that's about $2,400 in a month. And then for W-2 employees, we can go up to $1,000 max weekly, which again, if you add that up, goes to about $4,000 in a month. Because it is a short-term period, we have these benefit periods available. We can go as low as 13 weeks, and we can push it out as far as 2 years. Elimination periods, we can go as low as 0 and all the way out to 90 days, and that is going to depend on the benefit period chosen on which elimination period is there. For these ones that you see the double number, the first number would cover you for accident, the second is for sickness. So as you can see, for sickness, we do not have a 0. The lowest you can go is 7, but for accident, you can go to 0. There are some included benefits in the product, pretty much in line with every carrier out there. We've got total, partial, and presumptive disability built in. We also have a waiver of premium benefits. So if they do become disabled, obviously they're not going to have to pay the premiums while they are taking the benefit. We have a childbirth benefit that's going to pay a lump sum payment, one-time lump sum payment to the client due to the birth of a child. I want to kind of dig into this just a little bit here. I want to mention that it's not a maternity benefit, so it's not going to pay a benefit while the client is pregnant and going through the pregnancy. It only pays a lump sum benefit due to the birth of a child, and that goes up to a max of $500. And then we have our organ donor benefit and then our social insurance offset that are available within the policy as well. So the extra riders, I did mention a couple, and I want to show you all that are available, but a couple that we see quite a bit, and a lot of people have voiced some great opinions on having those. The first one is the family care rider. This is going to give the insured a weekly benefit while they are out on FMLA. And so this is if they go out on FMLA for their job due to having to take care of maybe a sick child, spouse, or even a parent. As long as they're employed full time and they do qualify for FMLA through their job, we will be able to pay them 50% of their weekly benefit that they qualified for either how long they are out up to the benefit period that they've selected. So just a great alternative to give them some options to get extra pay, even if they're not sick, but they're having to take time off to provide that care for that sick family member, child, spouse, or parent. The other one that I mentioned earlier was the stay-at-home spouse rider. This one I really like because it's not available on a lot of long-term products. And being that we are the only carrier with a individual short-term disability product, I really like this rider being able to provide coverage for a stay-at-home spouse with no income. I think is very key. So you have the main breadwinner is out there working. You have the stay-at-home spouse that, their job is very important as well. They're at home taking care of the day-to-day things of the house, taking care of the kids, making sure everything is taken care of. So when the main insured comes home, they don't have to worry about that as well. So it's very important that we get them some coverage in case they become sick or injured and can't do the things at home that they need to do. And this benefit will pay them up to $250 a week while they are out sick and can't take care of themselves. So a great benefit, and we do see a lot of great response to this rider so far when the product came out last year in July. We also have the return of premium rider, basically just going to return your premium should you cancel. We do have a return of premium schedule that we can provide to you so you can see, but typically it's going to be right around the 25-year plus mark that you would see 100% of your returns, and then it kind of grades down the earlier you would look to cancel that. Guaranteed insurability rider is going to allow them to come in and ask for a larger benefit amount if they're not already at the max. Should their salary change, so maybe they applied 2 years later, they're making more money, they have this guaranteed insurability rider on there, we can go in and update the benefit amount without having to do any type of medical exams or medical underwriting. All we will need is just proof of the new salary, so then we can upgrade the benefit amount and get that going for them. So we talked about the highlights of the products and the optional riders that are available. What's the target marketplace? I already mentioned it just a few minutes ago. We are the only individual short-term disability carrier in the marketplace right now. So really, the marketplace for us is very broad, but there are some target demographics that we see work really well for this. The first one is going to be the family market. We talked about the built-in childbirth benefit rider. It's going to give them that lump sum payment up to $500 for the birth of a child. All we need is just a birth certificate, and that'll pay out. The optional riders that we have, the family care rider and the stay-at-home spouse rider, really provide some peace of mind to those family members that they're going to be able to provide for their family should something happen to them, or have a spouse covered should something happen to them and they're a stay-at-home spouse. So great opportunities to speak to that family market with this type of product. We also looked at freelance and gig workers. This product really kind of came about because of COVID, and we saw a lot of clients that were not able to go in and work their main job, so they had to start taking some side jobs to be able to make things even out while they're not able to get into their main job or main place of work. So they had these non-traditional occupations. COVID-19 kind of started loosening it up. They started going back to their main employer, but they started to keep these side jobs to kind of have that extra additional income. So for us, being able to provide for multiple occupations really allows us to get them the max benefit possible by including all those different occupations they may still be working. And then the last one, those small employers that have little to no coverage. So you're looking at those employers that maybe have 20 employees or less, just not something that they're providing. It's just not, doesn't make sense business-wise for them as far as profit goes. So there's an opportunity to provide this individual policy to these employees. The great thing about it is it's completely portable. So if they leave that employer, they can take that anywhere they go, and that will cover them wherever they go. So we talked about the income protection part. Now what I want to do is I want to pivot and talk about our critical illness policy. So before we get into the actual highlights, I just want to talk a little bit about some of the stats out there that really kind of help build the storyline for you, for your clients, as to why they might want to look at a critical illness policy. For critical illness, you may have seen it. You may have some friends that have done it. Maybe even you have done it for a family member or for yourself. But there are a lot of opportunities for GoFundMe pages, and we see a lot of them out on social media. About $650 million are raised per year for GoFundMe pages, and 250,000 of that is medical fundraising campaigns per year. The crazy thing about it is, and why people still continue to do it, really kind of stumps me. Only 1 in 10 people actually meet their fundraising goal for medical funds. And I'll say that again, 1 in 10 meet their medical fundraising goal. So the opportunity is right there, right? Anybody you see with a GoFundMe page, you can absolutely go talk to them and see if they would benefit from a critical illness policy or a disability policy. Making sure that, their friends and loved ones don't go through the same situation that they may have had to go through. So you have opportunities to really reach out to a good broad net of clientele to see if a critical illness policy would really help them and really ease the burden of maybe thinking about things that could happen to them in via of a critical illness. And then the last stat I'll talk about before jumping into the highlights of the plan is, 52% of Americans have a high deductible healthcare plan. Well, what does that mean to you as the agents and to the clients out there? It means that they're going to have a large chunk of out-of-pocket expenses that they're going to have to come up with before they can get their plan to take care of their medical needs. So what can we do as agents to provide peace of mind to those clients that have those high deductible healthcare plans? And one of the things that we can provide is a critical illness insurance policy. This is going to pay out a lump sum payment. We have amounts from $5,000 all the way up to $500,000. We have 2 ways that you can write the product. We have simplified, which is not going to require any medical exams. We are still going to do the medical questions and still pull the MIB reports, the script checks and such, but we're just not going to require them to have to do any type of physical, get any type of blood drawn or do any urinalysis, anything under $75,000. And of course, the fully underwritten, it's going to provide all the same benefits, just going to have an exam done with it. For the product itself, we have 11 covered conditions, and I'll go over those conditions on the next slide. But in comparison to some of the other carriers out there with a critical illness policy, this client could actually get paid 11 different times on this type of policy, as long as there's a separation of 6 months between each critical illness condition. So what are those conditions that we have? Those are going to be heart attack, stroke, bypass surgery, angioplasty, invasive, non-invasive cancer. We have kidney failure, major organ transplant, advanced Alzheimer's, paralysis, and coma. Those are going to be your top 11 conditions that are going to be covered by the policy. And keeping with the theme of our short-term disability, we also have some optional riders on the critical illness as well. Some of the top ones that we see, of course, that first one's going to be the return of premium rider. going to allow them to cancel the policy and get a portion of their premiums back up to 100%, depending on when they would cancel the policy. The second one there is probably the top rider that we see added onto the policy, and that's the additional critical illness rider that's going to give you access to 6 more critical illnesses. That's going to cover you for advanced ALS, advanced Parkinson's, severe burns, loss of sight, loss of hearing, and also benign brain tumors. The reason I say that this product and that rider is very popular is, for one, these 6 additional, so it gives you a total of 17. But second is the cost. You're literally looking anywhere from maybe $1 up to $8 to add this rider, and that just really depends on your age. So obviously the lower amounts are probably going to fit more with the lower ages, but as we get older in age, obviously we know everything gets more expensive for us. So you're going to see it get a little bit more expensive for the larger ages. But again, at $8 a month, at the max that I've ever seen it at, to have 6 additional critical illnesses, could get paid out 17 different times. It just kind of makes sense. And a lot of agents and clients see that the same way as well. Third one here is going to be our critical accident rider. This is going to be a lot like a hospital indemnity type of rider. It's going to pay you a lump sum payment up to a max of $25,000, depending on how long of a stay in the hospital you have. And then the middle one, this will be the last one I mentioned that we see a lot of, is called the reoccurrence rider. This reoccurrence rider is going to allow you, or allow the client to claim on a previously claimed critical illness, as long as there's a 12-month separation period between the claims. So your client has a heart attack, 12 months later, they have a second heart attack, they're going to get paid out both times on that if they have that reoccurrence rider. It's a great rider that we see a lot of times. And again, the cost on that one is very low as well.
Hey, Travis, I don't want to cut you off, but with all the other carriers that I quote, I will say Assurity is the absolute best in this regard, with the additional critical illness rider and then that reoccurrence rider. I always joke, if you got the luckiest unlucky individual in the world, you know, they can really get paid out a multitude of different times here. So I just wanted to touch base and say that Assurity, with all the carriers that I do quote, is, in my opinion, the top dog in that regard.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I share the same sentiment, but it may not mean as much coming from me since I'm an employee of the company. But I will tell you, Jeff, my partner, had this policy, and it literally saved his life, not in more ways than one. Not only medically, but, you know, financially, he was able to stay afloat. And if you ever get to talk with him, he would be more than happy to share his story and everything that happened to him within this past year. But this product really is one of the best products in the industry out there as far as critical illness is concerned. Now that we talked about a little bit about the highlights, let's talk about some of those target marketplaces. We've kind of mentioned a couple of them, but, you know, complement to high deductible healthcare plans, you know, getting that lump sum payment up front is going to cover that that out-of-pocket expense that clients will have to come with until that the plan can kick in and start covering the remainder for them. So great opportunity. Again, it's a lump sum payment, so they get the money and then they get to use it how they see fit. Income replacement, mortgage protection solution. You know, these are all really good target markets as well. You can also package it with a DI to help cover the elimination periods. And then an alternative to DI coverage for ineligible occupations. And then the last one will be the scenario that we're going to cover today, which is providing a income protection at 0 elimination period, and then having a critical illness to cover that sickness part, where you would have an elimination period on the accident and sickness for the income protection. Substituting a critical illness with no elimination period not only gets you a little bit less of a premium, but also gets you, in the end, more money to the client. And we're going to go over 4 scenarios here that talks about this new sales idea that Miles approached me with, you know, just a few weeks ago. And again, you know, I appreciate the opportunity to be here with Miles. You know, having a company that thinks outside the box like Art Jetter does, and have an individual like Miles who's willing to put in the work and approach carriers to have us come in and present these ideas is a great partnership, and I think provides some great opportunities for you as agents with your clients out there. So first one we're going to talk about, and this is going to be geared more towards that middle income space. That's where we are sit. So talking about those blue collar, the gray collar, the pink collar spaces, our products really fit well into. So these scenarios are really going to talk a little bit more about some of those opportunities that you might run into on a more day-to-day basis. So first sales idea is going to be this gentleman here. He's a cook. He's 25 years old. A cook for us is going to be a 2A occupation class. He has income right around 35,000, small amount in savings. But he's really worried about, his bills that he currently has. Should something happen to him, should he become injured or sick? Not a typical millennial that's thinking like this, but he's one of the few that is kind of thinking of the future and willing to invest in that to make sure, that nothing happens to him or he doesn't get behind the ball if he's not able to work. So what are the solutions? So the solution is going to be this. We're going to get him an accident-only coverage plan with a zero elimination. Based on his salary, it's going to get him $415 a week in a disability benefit. We're going to get him a critical illness policy for $50,000. And again, there's no elimination period on our critical illness policy. So again, you come down with a critical illness, you talk with our claims department, we're going to pay out that lump sum payment. So we have a 0-day elimination period on the accident, and we have a 13-week benefit period. That's going to run them about $34.26 a month total for that coverage plan. So that's $13.54 for that accident coverage with a zero elimination, and a $20.72 a month for the critical illness, giving them $50,000 for each critical illness that they would come down with. If you do the math real quick, if they had 11 critical illnesses that they had come down with, that would be a little over $550,000 in payout just for the critical illness, and then they would have the $415 a week if they were disabled and couldn't work due to that critical illness. So now you might be thinking, well, why wouldn't I just do an accident and sickness policy? Well, let's look at the comparisons here. So if we did an accident and sickness with a 0 elimination for accident and a 7 elimination for sickness, you would see it come out to about $33.67 a month, which is just a little under 60 cents less than the scenario we just talked about. But that's going to give them a payout of $415 a week at 13 weeks. That gives them a total amount of $5,395 that they would receive for an accident and sickness policy, and then it would be done after that 13 weeks. If we look at the scenario that we talked above, where we use the accident only with 0 elimination, if they become sick or become injured and sick and they can't work, you're going to get $5,395. But let's say that sickness was a critical illness, then they're going to get an extra $50,000 on top of that. And they can continue to get that $50,000 if they come down with other critical illnesses. So you can see accident and sickness, you're going to get a max of $5,395. With an accident only, pairing with a critical illness, you're going to get that $5,395 plus the $50,000. So for less than 60 cents extra, you get another $50,000 in coverage for the client. And there's no elimination periods. You can start receiving this from day one. So let's talk about a second scenario here. Let's talk about a hairdresser. This client here, Angie, she's about 45, recently divorced. She has a high deductible healthcare plan, making about $45,000 a year. She's in that same occupation class of 2A. Her concerns is, making sure she can pay for her condo and other bills should she become sick or injured. So what's the solution on this one? So taking into account, the previous one, we're going to look at an accident only 0-day elimination. Based on her salary, we can get her up to $525 a week. We did that same $50,000 critical illness policy, comes out to $55.18 a month. So if you break it down even further, that's $21.32 for the accident coverage and then $33.86 for the critical illness. If we compare that to taking out just an accident and sickness policy at 0.7, that's actually going to be a lot cheaper, about $30 cheaper for this scenario. So $81.37 for an accident and sickness policy that gets them $6,825 total, which is that 525 times 13. With this policy, if we look at the scenario above, again, you can see where we're going to get that same 6,825, but with a critical illness, and again, no elimination period, we're going to get them that 50,000. So again, they're paying $30 less to get $50,000 more in a payout with this scenario. All right, let's go ahead and go on to idea number 3. We're going to talk about an HVAC worker. A lot of people know a lot of these HVAC workers, maybe some in your family, maybe some are friends, but this is a very highly occupation that we see a lot of. And with this client, we were looking at, he's about 35, he's a husband and parent. He's making about $45,000 a year in that same occupation class, 2A. But his major concerns are the impact on his family and financial security should he become sick or injured. So we want to provide a solution that's going to provide peace of mind for him and for his family should something happen to him. So again, we're going to get that accident only covered, 0 elimination period, 525 weekly, 50,000 critical illness policy. And then you can see here, it's 7201 a month. And then the breakdown 3202 for accident and then 3999 for critical illness compared to the accident and sickness coverage of 07 7334. And again, that max payout of 6,825, where if we do the accident only and the critical illness, that'll actually net them about 56,825. So you can really see kind of the theme here. I've got one more sales idea, but I think you guys may be getting, or hopefully you're getting and understanding the scenario that we're putting in front of you here and the opportunity to really get more coverage, more payout with no wait time and for most part, less premium. And again, we are an instant approval carrier. So for both products, you know, when you apply for those, we can provide you with an instant decision right then and there, whether they're approved or not, based on their health condition and such like that. So let's talk about the third one, and then we'll get into some of those sales tools that we have, and then I will show you how easy it is to go out and do a quote for both of those products as well. But the last sales idea is for a younger female who is working as a cashier. She's a mom of 2, she's married, making about $35,000 a year, and as a cashier, she actually qualifies as a 3A occupation class. Her major concerns are about her family and bills. You know, being a young mother, you know, always worried about the 2 children and her husband, making sure, you know, that they're taken care of should something happen to her. So we're going to look at an accident only coverage. It's going to cover for $415 a week. Again, going to throw on that 50,000 critical illness policy. Again, it's below that 75,000, so it's not going to require any medical exams. We're going to get it for her for $25.52 a month. So that's $7.38 for that accident coverage, and then $18.14 for the critical illness. If we compare it to an accident and sickness coverage with a 0 elimination for accident and 7 elimination for sickness, that's $53.24. That's almost half. Actually, it is. It's over half of the premium, and you're getting more payout. So again, $5,395 for $53.24 a month. Whereas you could pay $25 a month and get a minimum of $53,395. So all great scenarios here that really kind of illustrate the opportunity to be able to pair a critical illness policy with no elimination with an accident only coverage policy with no elimination to help them be covered for accident and critical illness sickness. So now that you kind of seen some of the sales ideas, you might be thinking, well, what tools do you have that I can, you know, go ahead and use to promote this opportunity? Well, we have some great strategy guides. We have social media guideposts that we have available that have already been done and created and approved by our marketing team. You have to do nothing but just literally copy and paste onto your social media to help drive the content. We also have brochures and videos. We have mobile-friendly quoters, which I'm going to go through here in this next slide. And then we have our e-applications, and then something that we call a quick start. And our quick start is our quote to application tool that you can get a quote in less than a minute and then jump into the application and complete that in about 10 to 15 minutes and get an instant approval for your client. So let's go ahead and take a look at the quoting tool for you here. And hopefully this will come up. Miles, are you seeing the Assurity easily run quotes?
Yep, looks like the homepage there.
Okay, perfect. So this is for the income protection. This is a short-term disability. We also have it available for the critical illness as well. But I'm going to run you through how easy it is to run an illustration and then kind of jump into the application. I won't be able to go into the application itself because if I do, it'll kick me out of the systems and lock me out, and I won't be able to do much more for you guys. But I did provide a nice, easy video that Miles has that shows the application process and how easy it is to go through it. It's a 10-minute video. So, you know, if you think about that 10-minute video, that's about how long it should take you to get through that application as well. And that's a pretty good time frame if you're sitting with a client. 10 minutes to get an application and get them approved, get them a policy that eases their mind is well worth it. So let's jump into it. So I'm going to go ahead and do income protection, accident only. It's going to ask for the state. I'm going to choose Nebraska because that's where my buddy Miles is at. And of course, that's where our main office is. But it is available in all the states that we have except for New York right now. We'll go ahead and hit that. We're going to put in the age. Let's just do 25. We'll do female, non-nicotine. We're going to hit next. And then it's going to ask for the occupation class. So how it's listed here, top to bottom is 4A down to 1A. Professional, technical, light labor, labor. And it gives a little description. So if you're not quite sure, you can kind of look at the description and hopefully that'll help you determine. If you are trying to figure out if it's between, say, 4A and 3A, you know, maybe a portion of their job fits in 4A, a portion fits in 3A. Just like life insurance, I would always recommend just going with the lower occupation class. And if at the end, when you get through the application, it bumps you back up to 4A, that's an easier conversation to have with your client, telling them, hey, actually the premium's less than what we thought, than the reverse side of it, where you go in and say, hey, sorry, I quoted you a 4A, it's actually 3A, the premium's going to be higher. That's always a tougher conversation. So always err on the side of caution and go with the smaller one. So I'm going to do technical here for you, and I'm going to click next. And then it's going to ask for the annual income. So let's say we'll just do 45,000. We're going to click next. And then it's just going to give you a couple recommended options. I always tell people, don't get hung up on this spot right here, because if you click customize a quote, that's going to take you in where you can actually go in and make your changes and tweak it to exactly what you would like. So here's the benefit period. As I mentioned, we can go as low as 13 weeks, push it all the way out as max of 2 years. Elimination periods, again, it's going to depend on the benefit period you select, but you can go 0 to 14 on the 13 week. We do the 26 week. And as you can see, as I made the changes, it's updating. And I hope it doesn't, there we go, updates. And then we have the different elimination periods that we can do here. See, it added 30 days. So the longer we go out, the longer the elimination period becomes. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this back to 13 week here, and we'll do 0 day. So you can see it's updated for 13 week 0 day, 525 would be $9.33. Here's some of the add-ons that we can add on here for you. Here's that stay-at-home spouse rider. And then here's your client's information you entered before. If you are all good with everything that you like here, and the client wants you to send it to them, you can go ahead and send the quote. All you have to do is put in the client's email, put in your name, phone number, and email address, and hit send quote. It'll send a copy to the client as well as a copy to your inbox, so you have a copy for the client as well. I'm going to go back here. Let's say they liked everything they saw and they're ready to apply. We can go ahead and hit apply now. And once you hit apply now, there's going to do some kind of little bit of fact finding ahead of time before we get into the application, just to make sure that we're able to consider this client for the product. So for this one, income protection is asking about employment. So they're an employee or business of the company. We're going to hit that, hit next. It's going to ask if they're a government employee. For purposes, we're going to say no right now. They're not part of the railroad. And then here it's going to ask what their actual occupation is. So if you remember, I selected the 3A occupation class, but let's say we're working with an accountant. I know an accountant is a 4A, so I want to show you how this works when you've selected a different occupation class than what the job is. So we're going to select accountant and say at least 40 hours a week. We will accept 30 hours a week for full-time, just FYI, but I'm just putting in 40. ABC company. Annual gross amount, I think I said 45,000, and years employed, we'll just say 5. We're going to hit next. And then here it's going to allow you to add any additional jobs. So if you remember, I said that this product will allow for multiple occupations. So if they do have other occupations they want to add in to help bolster this number over here on the right, they can add that in. For time's sakes, I will go ahead and just not add any in. We'll hit no. I'm going to hit next. And then it's going to ask if they have any interest, dividends, or rental income. This also can be added in to really help with that weekly benefit amount. Again, for time purposes, I'm going to click no, and I'm going to hit next. And then it's going to say, hey, based on the information entered, we've actually updated your client's occupation class to professional. So as you remember, I selected 3A based on the occupation description of an accountant. It bumped it up to 4A. And then over here on the right, you can see it went from $9 down to $6. Again, in this scenario, not a huge difference, but if you're like me, $3 is still saving money, and I would rather go with the lower premium than the larger premium, just even if it's just $3. So if they like that, then you're going to hit accept and proceed. It's going to give you the opportunity to resend this quote out because it's changed. So you can go ahead and hit send, enter the email again. Otherwise, you will hit apply now. And then this is where it's going to ask for your username and password. So you have to be an agent with an agent number with us that's not terminated to be able to get in. And you set up your own username and password for the AssureLink agent portal. So this is where you would hit log in. I can't go past this point again. If I do, it'll screw up my whole system. But again, Miles has that video that will show you what happens past this point. So he'll distribute that out to you guys, and feel free to watch it. If you have any questions, reach out to Miles or myself. We'll be glad to answer those at those times. So that is our quoting tool. I'm going to get this and go back into here. Again, that's the site right here for income protection, and this is the one for critical illness. It works in the same capacity, but just geared more towards critical illness. And the pre-qualifying questions are going to deal more towards health, not having a stroke or heart attack in the past 5 years, drug use, things like that. Some things you're typically, excuse me, you're typically seeing on like health and life applications. All right, and with that, that's actually the whole concept that we had and everything we had to present. I'm going to let Miles come in here now if there's anything that he would like to add, or if there's any questions that he saw come through that we need to answer, or if anybody has a question, wants to unmute themselves and voice in, this would be the time to do so. So Miles, do you have anything extra you want to add?
First off, I would just like to say thank you. This is awesome presentation, exactly what I was looking for. As I guess my guess, I've never been an agent myself. I'm sure a lot of agents aren't thinking of a cook, a cashier, somebody like this is a prime opportunity to write with. But these are folks that need help, need policies, and it is a good way to really get in with them as their occupations grow and get more policies down the line. I'm sure I don't need to tell you about that opportunity there. But no, it's like just something for a delivery guy, if they're out a week or two, just to be able to help them bridge the gap and get back into it. I think this would be a great opportunity for those folks. I did get one question and referring to the cancer portion. So if an individual does have cancer, can they get coverage? Can you speak on that, Travis?
If they currently have cancer, is that what the question was?
Correct, yes.
So it's really going to depend on what type of cancer it is, what the plan of, word this correctly here, what their to get healthy. So it's really going to depend, and that's the things that we would send over to our certified underwriters to talk about. So if you do have a client that does have cancer, it doesn't mean that they wouldn't get approved. With our critical illness policy, and what I really love about it, and the fact that it is 11 different illnesses that are covered, there's the ability to be able to exclude certain ones as well. So, maybe you have a client that does currently have cancer. Maybe you want to cover for cancer, but you're probably maybe not be able to get it, just depending on, again, what they're doing, medication wise. Are they actually doing a plan with a doctor? I've had clients that have had cancer and then just said, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to take the course. Those types of situations, probably not going to get approved for the cancer part. But if they do have a really good regimen built in, that they're taking pills, they're going to their appointments on time, they're really doing the follow-ups and taking it, as seriously as possible, there's an opportunity that it could get approved with the cancer, or it could be an exclusion where you would still have the 10 other critical illnesses available, and maybe it excludes that part for that specific cancer. So again, it just depends on the situation, the type of cancer. If you have those, send them over to Miles. He can reach out to me and we'll talk with our underwriters and see what we can do. And that's why I said that, the support is always before and after the sale. We have great underwriters and claims people that, are very knowledgeable in the space and are willing to take the time to either talk to you directly or provide feedback on any information you would be willing to provide to us to get those clients the policy.
Perfect. And then an agent just asked, and just to clarify, so essentially, if they don't meet the 11 critical illnesses, then there's no coverage for sickness. So I believe that you were saying that they would still have the other 10 covered. Cancer may be excluded in this example here, but the other 10 would still be covered. Is that correct, Travis?
Correct. Yep. And that's something that is really unique and is really favorable for our product. And that's why ours really stands out in the industry compared to others, because it's not an automatic decline just because you may not, get one illness covered. We still could look at the other 10 because you haven't had that history of the other 10, maybe the cancer, or maybe it's even just stroke. We can take out stroke and still provide the other 10. We want to be able to give you the ability to cover you in all instances where other carriers might put it in a 3-category approach, and that you have something happens to you like stroke, that takes out like stroke, heart attack, possibly angioplasty, groups them all into one, where ours, each individual, and again, as Miles said it earlier, you could have the unluckiest client that could get paid out 11 different times. You add on that additional critical illness rider, now it's 17 different times. And if you have a $50,000 policy, that's well over half a $1 million in payouts that they could get. Now, obviously, their quality of life is, something to be worried about. But again, they would have that peace of mind that they could get that money to help them if that happened. So.
Absolutely. Great answer there. Another question from an agent: would this work for an Uber driver or a DoorDash guy? Can you kind of speak on those, type of occupations?
Let's see here. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but yes, those would work for them. That's not an occupation that is excluded. So we would be able to provide for that type of occupation.
Fantastic. And then a question about states. Is it okay to cross New York residents applying in New Jersey? How does that work, since it's not available in New York?
So unfortunately for us, for a surety, now this is just specific to us. There are other carriers that will look at this differently, and you probably have worked with some of them. I have myself, where you have a client that's in New York, maybe they have a work office that's in New Jersey, or maybe they have family that's in New Jersey. Maybe they're visiting them, and you have a conversation with them, and they sign the application in New Jersey. Most carriers would consider that New Jersey. Unfortunately, because the client is a resident of New York, we still have to consider that New York. It's something I've been fighting. I don't like it because of the exposure of other carriers that I've worked with. Hopefully that's something that'll change soon, but unfortunately right now, if they're a resident of New York, it would still be considered a New York application.
Totally understand. Kind of out of our hands there. So
yep.
Yeah, totally. Well, a lot of good questions. Other people just saying thank you. So good information here, Travis. If anything else pops up in the meantime, definitely put it in the chat. But thank you all for joining us. If you do have any further questions that come to you, email di@jetter.com. And if you would like, I can also give a recording of this webinar. Please reach out for that. I know if you already have in the chat here. So thank you all agents for joining us, and thank you Travis again for this awesome information. I look forward to driving a bunch more sales to Assurity here, and as things get rolling. So thanks again, everybody. Have a fantastic day, and reach out for when we can help.
Awesome. Thanks, Miles. Appreciate the opportunity. Everyone have a great rest of the day.
Take care.